Hello everyone, in this video I'm going to go over topic 2 part 2. We already did part of it in the class, so we're discussing basically the structures of interest rate, and we wanted to study the most important factors that would affect the yield of a certain security. So we kind of discussed like the overall idea of this topic, and we basically said that the yield of a certain debt security would be affected by the credit risk, liquidity, the tax status of the security, and then the term of maturity. And we said that the higher the risk, the higher the return. The more liquid the security, the lower the return. The high tax, the higher the return. And then when we have like long term to mature, then the higher is the return. So in terms of the first one, so just notice that the coming slides are going to discuss each of these 4 main points. So in terms of the credit risk, you know that in order to invest in a certain security, you need to analyze how risky is this security. And we have some indicators that would help us to determine the riskiness of the security. Of course, the higher the rating by Moody's, which is a rating agency, or the higher the rating of the other agency, which is Standard & Poor here, indicates that this security has less risk. So this one is good quality, this is second best, third best, fourth best, and so on. This is the worst. Same here, best, second best, third best, and this is the worst. So of course it makes sense that if I invest in this one, which is the least risky security, then I would expect the lowest return. And the opposite is true. If I invest in the security that is about to default, which is highly risky, then I would expect to be compensated for that, which means I would expect high return. So in terms of liquidity, which is the second characteristic of a security, of course, the lower the liquidity, right, the higher the return, because I need to be compensated for that. Liquidity is about how long it's going to mature. So if it matures very soon, then it's highly liquid, then my return is going to be low. In terms of taxes, so of course we are very much concerned as investors about after-tax income. And if the higher the tax, I need to be compensated for that. So I need to have higher return. So this is just an example. So if this is the tax rate that increases from 10 to 35%, then a security that offers 2%, its after tax is going to be this much. This is a before tax yield, but if the tax is 10%, then we will get 3.6. If the tax is 15% on the 4%, then we will get 3.4. If the tax is 25% out of the 4%, then we will get 3%, and so on. So, of course, you understand that the higher the tax, the lower is the amount that I have after I pay the tax, or the after-tax return is gonna fall. And of course, the consumer has to be, or I mean, the investor has to be compensated for that. This formula is helpful because it gives us this, give us the story that I'm just discussing. This one is this one, but just rewriting it in a different way. So the amount of yield after tax is equal to the before tax 1 minus the tax rate. You can also write it this way: the yield before tax is the yield after tax over 1 minus t. That's important because you're going to use it in assignments. The third characteristic, which is the term to maturity, of course, how long it's going to mature is going to affect the yield, right? So term to maturity and the annualized yield. Of course, if I wait longer and longer and longer period for the security to mature, then the yield has to increase. I have to be compensated for that. Or in other words, the less liquid the security is, the higher the return. Okay, so of course, this yield differential is the difference between the yield offered on a security and a risk-free. So in order, I need to have kind of a benchmark, and the benchmark is always something that has no risk, which is the 3 months treasury bill. The 3 months treasury bill is our benchmark for no risk, zero risk. Any yield above that, then it's going to be an indication of some extra additional amount of return above my benchmark, which is the 3 months treasury bill rate. Okay. Okay, so the yield differential on a money market security, any commercial paper would offer a higher higher return over a treasury bill rate. Why? Because it's risky, so you need to be compensated for that. Okay, the municipal bonds has the lowest before tax yield, but its after tax is higher. Why? Because it's basically less liquid. Okay, and this one we have discussed it already, and it's basically saying that the more risky should offer a return than high return than the less risky security. In this one, we are talking about the yield, our benchmark, the risk-free yield, and the factors affecting the yield, the risk or the default premium, the liquidity, and the tax status. Okay, so let me stop here and I'll send you another video.